Creating a level 1 druid today on Dungeons and Taverns. Hello, I'm Saul Sunforge and welcome to Dungeons and Taverns. Today's video is the next in our series, So You Want to Be, where I create a level 1 character and then at the end provide you a Google document link to download that character for free. Today's Druids. I'll provide the link in the comments section below, or it'll be in the description if you care to read the description as well. I would like you to be a subscriber, but it's not necessary, although it helps the channel out, helps me out to grow. But the video is for subscribers and for viewers, and so is the level 1 druid, as well as the ones I've already created, which you can find those links in their comment section pinned at the top, or the description as well. I try to edit these videos so they're 30 minutes or less. So this way you can watch them on your lunch break at work, or if you're at school and study hall. You know, it's just places where you can easily have a half hour or less of time, ideally less. So we're going to stop talking a little bit and get to it. Druids are a very versatile class, as they can be tanks, range dealers, melee damage dealers, and healers. And they're all actually pretty good at all of those things. Just like bards have colleges, and wizards have schools, druids have circles, and I'll explain the circles to you in a moment. But the druid circles can be found on page 68 of the player's handbook, page 36 of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and page 22 of Xanthar's Guide of Everything. You can read more about them there, but I'm just going to give you a generalization, so this way you can make your decisions later on. And you pick your druid circle at level 2. Circle of the Land. This is the circle that I feel is most druidy in a fantasy setting. From a roleplay perspective, the land in which you become a druid influences the magic that you gain from it. Your circle spells are always prepared and do not count against the number of spells that you can prepare each day. The next circle in the player's handbook is the Circle of the Moon. This is a circle I think of from any other perspective of a druid. They're a shape changer who can transform into a larger manner of beasts than the other circles can. And at 10th level, you can even change into elementals. And when you gain the circle at level 2, you can change into animals as a bonus action in combat instead of just a regular action. Now let's go on to the circles from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The first one up is Circle of Spores. They have a link to spores to tap into life and death. In addition, their circle spells, they can surround themselves with spores, and then when enemies get close, they can unleash them on the enemies and deal necrotic damage. It's like within 10 feet, I think. Then the second one in Tasha's is the Circle of Stars. These druids document stars and seek to learn their secrets. And through those secrets, that's how they get their magic. They create a star map, and while holding it, they gain spell benefits and can use their wild shape to turn their body into a star and choose a constellation, with each constellation giving its own unique benefits. The last circle that's in Tasha's is the Circle of Wildfire. These druids understand destruction and sometimes need to create from the destruction. You can summon a wildfire spirit, which is like a small fire elemental in the shape of an animal that is bound to your soul, and when you summon the spirit, it can do damage to everyone but you within 10 feet. Now, these are just generalizations. You can read, there's far more details, but it's beyond the scope of this video. Finally, come the circles that are in Xanthar's Guide to Everything. The Circle Dreams. You have a strong ties to the Feywild and good aligned Fey. They can use their bonus action to teleport 60 feet, and you can teleport willing allies 30 feet using hidden paths that the Fae use to travel. And then you can use the Summer Quartz energy to heal allies within 120 feet. And the last one is the Circle of Shepherd. You can speak with beasts and Fae by learning Sylvan, which is the language of the Fae, and deciphering animal noises. They can use spirit totems to summon spectral beasts. And later at 10th level, your summoned spectral beasts can be healed by being near your totems. So you can see there's a wide range of options there for you to pick from. So with those relatively short descriptions of the circles, let's go ahead and just get right into the character sheet for you. The name I picked for this druid is Amethyst. Female druid, I've always loved amethyst. I think it's a very pretty name, and it makes sense for druids because the nature of gems from the earth and things like that. And before I started this series, I was going to come up with the backgrounds for every one of the characters, but I decided not to do that. Not because I'm lazy, but because these are characters that I'm making for you all, and so I want to actually see what your backgrounds are. You know, so let me know if you use these characters. Let me know in the comments section on the background of your character's backstory, I should say. I choose the background, but you can edit it or modify the skills that I select from that background, whatever you want. It's your character. All right, so here we're at the character sheet. You see, I already put down the name Amethyst, level 1 Druid. For race, I'm going to pick Tabaxi because it's not one of the classical races in the player's handbook. It's more of when you think of the classical races, you think of halfling, dwarf, elf, human, orc. Those are the classic races. So we're gonna go with Tabaxi because I feel like a Tabaxi would make a very good druid. I'm gonna make her chaotic good because a chaotic good character is very good and moral, but they act on their own code and they have very little care for laws or what others expect of them. And I feel like this alignment goes well with druids because druids generally are, they're good, they're nurturing people. Um, but a society of druids, a grove of druids, might not necessarily give a crap about the laws in the land that they are in. Tabaxi can be found on page 113 of Volo's Guide to Monsters. Tabaxis are normal. They barter. They barter with lore. They're natural storytellers and wanderers, and so it plays perfectly with druids because you think of druids more of as a nomadic civilization, really. Tabaxi, for their ability score increases, they start out with a Dex increase of 2 and a Charisma increase of 1. So let's go ahead and put those into our sheet. Tabaxi live exactly as long as humans do, so we'll go ahead and make Amethyst an even 20 years old. But as a level 1 character, 20 seems like an appropriate age for me in terms of a race that lives equivalent neck and neck with what a human lives. She's about to go out and explore the world and gain those stories that Tabaxi would, the lore to barter with. And Tabaxi are any chaotic race usually. And so they are driven by curiosity more than greed. So that they get the extra stories to tell. And as they get older, they accumulate more stories, and so they use that as like their currency. To get what they want. They also make natural bards too, because bards, they don't have to just play musical instruments; they can tell stories as well. So Tabaxi fits into a lot of things really well. And then Tabaxi are usually taller and more slender than humans, but their size category is still medium. Pretty much every race in D&D that you can play, you'll find out is a medium, and some of them are small. So since she's a little bit taller than a human female, we'll go ahead and make her 5'10". And since they're slender, we'll go ahead and make her 115 pounds. That's rather slender for somebody who's 5'10". I'm gonna go ahead and leave the skin and hair completely empty for you. Tabaxi's a cat, so you can really go anywhere you want with it. I'll leave it up to you to fill that out. But in case you're curious, the Tabaxi in my mind has like a black and yellow leopard print pattern, sort of. And then she has a white nose, and the ridge of her eyebrows down to her nose is orange. That's what I have in my mind, but whatever you want is completely fine with you. The Tabaxi's base walking speed is 30, which is pretty good. And then they have a trait called feline agility, which they can move double their speed in their turn. But they can't use it again until they have a turn where they move nowhere. But that's very handy to have. And then because they have claws, they actually have a climbing speed of 20 feet. And they do 1d4 plus their strength modifier in slashing damage if you decide to use your claws. If you're more of a bestial, then yeah, you can use your claws for sure, and that fits in well. In terms of doing the most damage, though, you're obviously going to want to pick a weapon. Although the way I would play her is if I'm playing more of an intimidating type of character, I would use those claws in terms of the role play to intimidate others. You know, because the Tabaxi's a cat, they have proficiency in perception and stealth. So we'll go ahead and give ourselves proficiency in perception and stealth to start out with. And that's before we even get our class specific proficiencies and our background proficiencies. So you can see how that's already a boon. And then Tabaxi can speak, read, and write in common and in one other language. I'll go ahead and write the common down. I'll let you pick the other language. And before you pick your other languages, you may want to ask the DM what type of campaign you're going to have, so you could kind of sort of dictate what languages that you may use the most. Nobody likes to pick languages they're never going to use in the campaign. Although you can, I mean, it's more realistic to pick a language that you may not use. You just know it. But, some players may not like that. I'm writing down Sylvan in here for the secondary language, but feel free, like I said, to change it to whatever you want. I'm just picking it because of the Fae descriptions of the Druids. They're in touch with nature. All right, so we're going to go back up to the top. Druids start out with 1d8 plus their Constitution bonus and hit points. On first level, you always start out with max. So we're going to go ahead and give her 8 for her max right now. Once we roll our Constitution, then we're going to go ahead and modify that, though. However, after first level, when you level up again, you can roll a d8 and add your Constitution, or you can pick the average of 5 and go with that if you don't want to risk rolling lower than that 5. Druids are proficient in light and medium armor, as well as shields, although they do not like to use metal, so keep that in mind. They will not use armor or shields made out of metal, although you could feel free to play with that. Your DM may let you, or if they're strict about it, then they will not. For weapons, they're proficient in clubs, daggers, darts, javelins, maces, quarterstaffs, scimitars, sickles, slings, and spears. And for tools, they get their herbalism kit. For their saving throws, they're proficient in intelligence and wisdom. So I'm going to go ahead and write all that in now. Page 143 of the player's handbook has your starting wealth by class. So we see druids here start with 2d4 times 10 gold. Let's roll that now. I'm just going to go ahead and use roll 20 on my campaign map. That's where we ended the last session at. So you have something to look at while I'm rolling. But we're going to go ahead and roll the dice using roll 20. All right, so roll 2d4. You get 5 times 10, so that means you start out with 50 gold. Since we're here on roll 20 already, let's go ahead and roll up our stats. You roll 4d6, and then you drop the lowest. And since this video is getting long because of all the talk of the circles, because there was quite a few, I'm just going to roll all 6 real quick. First one's an 11. Next is a 14. Next one is a 16. Next one is a 12. Next one is 11. And the last one is 13. All right, so I wrote the stats in numerical order here in the margins so you can see what we have to work with. 16, 14, 13, 12, 11, 11. That's a pretty well-rounded character with no stats that are underneath of a 10. That's pretty dang good. And Druid's primary spell ability is wisdom. Yeah, okay, I was right. A Druid's primary spell ability is wisdom, so typically you'd want to have wisdom as your main stat, but it's up to you according to what type of druid you want. You could move these stats around, just come back to the page and look at the stats and then reorder them yourself. But for the process of this example, for this character sheet, we're going to make wisdom our primary stat. If I was making a tank, I would put strength as my primary stat and constitution as my secondary stat. Or if you're making a more of a charismatic character to lean more on the tabaxi portion, then you'd probably want to put that as your secondary stat. I wouldn't use the primary stat for that though as well. So we're going to make our strength our secondary stat. So we'll put the 14 there. And then for dexterity, we'll put the 13, but add the 2. So that makes it a 15 actually. And then we're going to go ahead and put the 12. We're going to put the 12 under our Constitution. And then we're going to go ahead and put an 11 here for Charisma plus the 1, so it becomes a 12. And then we're going to go ahead and put the other 11 here finally under Intelligence. And there's our final stats. And they look pretty good, pretty tasty to me. And I'll go ahead and leave the stats that I rolled here in the margins, and I'll start doing that from the future now. So this way you can replace the stats wherever you'd like to. All right, so the easiest way to figure out your ability score bonuses is to half each one of your scores. If it doesn't make an even number, to round it down, and then subtract 5. So let's do that right now. So a 14 becomes a 7 minus 5, that's a 2. 15 rounded down is a 14. Divided in half is a 7 minus 5 is 2. Half of 12 is 6 minus 5 is a 1. Half of 10 is 5 minus 5 is a nothing. 16, half of that is 8 minus 5 becomes a 3. And then for the charisma, half of that is 6 minus 5 is a 1. And it's that easy. I forgot to switch the color back to the same color, so that's why it was red. I just changed it back to black, but the bonuses are all the same. Your proficiency bonus starts out as a 2. At 5th level, it becomes a 3. At 9th level, it becomes a 4. At 13th level, it becomes a 5. And then I believe it's 17th level becomes a 6. So since we're proficient in intelligence, wisdom, you'll add a 2 to those. But these numbers, you just bring them on over. Strength's 2, Dex 2, Con 1, Intelligence a nothing plus a 2 is a 2. Wisdom a 3 and a 2 is a 5, and then Charisma is a 1. Now, druids get to pick 2 skills to be proficient in from Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, and Survival. Since she's already proficient in Perception, then we can't pick that. So we'll go ahead and pick Medicine and Survival. So you can see she's proficient in 4 things now. Since our con bonus is a 1, we're going to go ahead and add that to our hit points. Then increase the max hit points to 9. There we go. Next, we have to pick a background. Backgrounds start on page 127 of the player's handbook. Since we're a tabaxi, we're going to go ahead and lean really heavily into that. Since I said earlier that they tell stories and they collect lore as they go, we're going to go ahead and make our tabaxi an entertainer. So she'll be proficient in acrobatics and performance. She'll also get a disguise kit and 1 type of musical instrument. In equipment, she'll get musical instrument, 1 of your choice, in the favor of an admirer, a love letter, a lock of hair, or a trinket, a costume, and 15 gold. And then this is a cool feature here. By popular demand, you can always find a place to perform, usually in an inn or tavern, but possibly with a circus, at a theater, or even in a noble's court. At such a place, you receive free lodging and food of a modest or comfortable standard, depending on the quality of the establishment, as long as you perform each night. In addition, your performance makes you something of a local figure. When strangers recognize you in a town where you have performed, they typically take a liking to you. You can play that up real heavy, and you can earn money at inns and taverns, as long as your DM allows you to do these types of things, which I don't see why they wouldn't. So we'll go back to the character sheet here real quick. We'll go ahead and select acrobatics and performance, since we just got those from our background. Our background is an entertainer, and we'll go ahead and write entertainer in here for our background. Now this background is what gives you tangible benefits, and you play it up as much or as little as you wish to. But it's not your backstory. Your backstory is where your character came from, why they are who they are. That's all on you. I'm not going to create that for you. I was thinking of doing that when I first started this series, but that's something that you probably want to fill out yourself, and I encourage that. Your initiative here is your dexterity bonus. There's feats that give you higher bonuses to your initiative, but we're not dealing with those in this video. All right, now we're going to go to the next portion of the entertainer background, and we are going to pick a personality trait. So the first one is, I know a story relevant to almost every situation. Which that sounds like for the tabaxi, that's perfect already. I don't need to go any further than that. For ideal, I'm going to pick number 2, tradition. The stories, legends, and songs of the past must never be forgotten, for they teach us who we are. For bond, I'm going to pick I idolize a hero of the old tales and measure my deeds against that person's. All right, so next up is a flaw. Let's see. I'll do anything to win fame and renown. I'm a sucker for a pretty face. The scandal prevents me from ever going home again. That kind of trouble seems to follow me around. Excuse me. I once satirized a noble, who still wants my head. It was a mistake that I will likely repeat. I have trouble keeping my true feelings hidden. My sharp tongue lands me in trouble. That's the one we're going to go with. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and fill in our points for our skills. It's easy just to go down the list here. So for strength, the only strength here is athletics. Then for dex, we go ahead and fill those out. We're proficient in acrobatics, so we're going to go ahead and add a proficiency bonus to the 2. And then we're going to go ahead, we're proficient in stealth, so we're going to add the 2 to the 2. Sleight of hand, we have a regular old 2. In 5th edition, Constitution is not used for a single skill. Our intelligence is nil, so we are going to fill that out. There we go. And then our wisdom bonus is a 3. We're proficient in medicine, so we add our proficiency bonus. Proficient in perception, so we're going to add our bonus. We're proficient in survival, so we're going to add the bonus. And then charisma is a 1. So deception, intimidation, performance, we're proficient, so 1 plus 2, it's 3. Persuasion, it's a 1. And there we go. We filled out our skills. Our passive perception is 10 plus our wisdom modifier, so our passive perception is 13. Passive is just, it means things that you notice, your character notices, without you actually actively looking for them. The last areas we have to work on is our weapons, and then our equipment, and I'll just touch on the spells, the ability, the DC, and the spell bonus, and then we'll be done. Druid spellcasting ability is based off of their wisdom. The spell DC is 8 plus proficiency modifier plus the wisdom modifier. So we have a 2 proficiency, so we add 8 plus 2 is a 10. And then our modifier for wisdom is a 3, so we start out with a 13 for our spell save DC. Then the spell attack bonus is your proficiency modifier plus your wisdom modifier, so that becomes a 5 for our attack bonus. At first level, a druid knows 2 cantrips, and they can cast a first level spell twice. Your circle spells will not count against those, so feel free to add those as well. Pick the first level spells or your cantrips that you wish to do it, so I'm not going to pick those for you. Okay, right here under equipment, this is the starting equipment for the druid. In addition to the stuff that you get for your background, which I've already added the 15 gold. So you get a wooden shield or any simple weapon. We'll start out with a wooden shield. Scimitar or any simple melee weapon. We'll start out with a scimitar. And then leather armor, an explorer's pack, and a druidic focus. So we'll add all those things in now. In 5th edition, all shields are treated the same. So you get a +2 to your AC for donning a shield. Of course, you could get magical shields that add a +1, +2, or +3 to that too. And then your DM can homebrew, like I like to do, different shields with different qualities on them. Page 151 of the player's handbook has your equipment packs. Since we get the explorer's pack, we get a backpack, a bedroll, mess kit, a tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days of rations, and a water skin. The pack also includes 50 feet of hemp rope strapped to the side of it. All right, so we went ahead and put each individual item in the pack in our equipment. This way we can see what's actually in the pack. We don't have to look it up every time. And then I put it in alphabetical order because when I'm playing, it just helps me find it a lot faster. All right, so we went ahead and put everything that was in the pack in alphabetical order in our equipment section there. Putting it in alphabetical order just helps you find it a lot faster when you're playing. And you can find the weapons table on page 149, and the descriptions start at page 146 for the properties of those weapons, like finesse, heavy, light, loading. Those all mean different things. We're not going to cover that in this video. Here's the weapons chart table that I was talking about. Let's go down and find scimitar. You can see it's worth 25 gold. It does 1d6 slashing. It's finesse and it's light. Light weapons simply mean that you can hold that weapon in your offhand. And finesse simply means that you can use your strength or your dexterity for your attack and damage rolls. For our purposes, it doesn't necessarily matter because our strength and our dex are exactly the same bonus. So you add that to your damage. So it's 1d6 plus 2. Then for your attack bonus, we're going to have to use the same one, which they're both the same number. So right now it does not matter. And we're proficient with the scimitar. So that means our attack bonus at level 1 is a 4. You can see here on page 145 of the player's handbook is the table. Let's zoom in a little bit here. We get leather armor. So it's leather armor gives you 11 AC plus your dexterity modifier. We know our dexterity modifier is a 2. And then we also have that shield. So that means we have 11 plus 2 plus 2. So 15 is our AC. Let's fill that in right here. And one little final glance over here. The features and traits section, whenever you level up, you should put your the traits, the things that you gain over here, so you can quickly read them. Put them in the order that you level, and I put them in parentheses, the level in parentheses, and then give a basic description of what it is, the benefits it gives you, and you're good to go there. Let's see here. These don't need to be filled out yet. This will be filled out as you play. Your appearance, you can fill that out, like I said. Your symbol here would be your druidic focus. Your backstory, place it in here. You're going to come up with that. That's not for me to do for you. And then your spells and your prepared spells and things like that. When you have the spell prepared, you click these little dots here to let you know which of your spells you're prepared. You write every spell at that level that you know down, and then you select which ones for the day that you want to prepare. So this video, I think, is going to probably be able to be edited down to about 25 minutes, I hope. Hopefully this helps you out. If it does, go ahead and give me one of these and hit the subscribe button to help me out. I'm trying to get to 1,000 so we can start turning this into a career. The link is going to be available for you in the comments section. It's going to be pinned up top, and it's going to also be in the description of the video as well. So I've been Saul Sunforge. You've been great. Have a great day. Hopefully you had a safe 4th of July, and I'll see you next time.